watching Daily Iowan TV, your television news, sports, and weather source for the Daily Iowan.
The Daily Iowan is a student newspaper, but we hold ourselves to professional standards.
The Daily Iowan is a place where young people can come and learn how to be writers and photographers and editors and videographers and newscasters.
Week 5 is the week where conference play.
It's a unique place.
One of the ways that we set ourselves apart this year is by focusing on the big stories. Election night is exciting for any year, in particular if you're a journalist being in the newsroom.
So keep watching Daily Iowan TV for your full coverage of the under 21 vote.
As an editor, we had to think of fresh ways to look at it. We had to think of who's being affected by this. What does it mean for students? What does it mean for the community? What does it mean for businesses?
We covered the election live on Daily Iowan TV, which is something we typically do with elections, and provided break-ins to update people on what the results were when different polling sites were reporting.
Anchoring for election night was very stressful. We were waiting for the results to come in, so we had to be prepared to go live as soon as those came in without any script. Between the 9:30 and the 10:30 show, we projected the final results of the outcome, and it was that the ordinance was upheld.
I'm here at Bob's Your Uncle with Connie Champion, and Connie, the vote for the 21 ordinance is okay and it's passed.
Walking down the hill from up at Sports Column, knowing that we were the only people that got to be in there, and that some of that description from that room was going to be in my story and not in anybody else's story was a fantastic feeling. And I remember it was like the greatest reporter's rush I've ever gotten. It was an awesome night.
Sometimes when you're covering Hawkeye football, the big story is something that's off the field too.
Did you hear what happened? Did you see what happened? What's going on? It's like, I didn't even know what was going on at that point.
I probably had 4 missed calls, like 5 or 6 text messages, and figure out that TJK got arrested.
And last night he was arrested on 6 drug-related charges.
Perhaps the most interesting thing of this story, that really went from being so high to so low so quickly, really in the matter of minutes, hours. As this story broke, he was suspended from the football team. You have the head coach of the football team not even referring to him by name. I'm glad that they noticed that we tried to do something a little bit different here, and that's kind of what we stressed a lot this year, just be interesting and be different, and write it in an interesting way, and people are going to care about it. So I'm glad that came off in the story.
Earlier this year, the Daily Iowan found out that a UI professor had faked his own stabbing downtown Chicago. UI police had also investigated him in a separate incident.
We decided we would have to start at least at the base and get all the basic documents that the Chicago Police Department had.
We were surprised to find that they actually detailed what the UI investigation entailed. And we had found out that Gary Huntinghockey had been investigated for child pornography.
We knew we couldn't hold on to it, we couldn't sit on it, and we had to get to work.
Haley spent about from noon to 9 p.m. reporting.
It was pretty intense. We were under a pretty tight deadline. We still had to get the story out, by the end of the night. And there were a lot of important people that we had to get a hold of that probably necessarily didn't really want to talk to us.
Haley Bruce she's only worked here for about a year, but her reporting and her professionalism was really impressive on this story. And I think that all showed when we received the first place in Spot News competition for Hearst.
The Manzar family has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 different children, all under the ages of 16, studying at the University of Iowa. You may be
right when we got this story idea, heard about this story, I think we all realized that it could be something really special, and it definitely turned out to be.
My initial meeting with them was not as easy to arrange as I necessarily thought it would be. I had to, break down those barriers to make sure they knew that I was not going to do anything to misrepresent their children or make them unhappy.
Shooting photographs for young doctors was one of those stories that you went to that you didn't take the camera out the first couple times that you got to know them.
This whole process took place over 6 weeks, from the time I got the story to the time that we published it.
And when the story finally published, the whole community was fascinated by it. We got so much reaction from people on this campus who had seen these kids walking around and always wanted to know their story, and no other local media outlet was really able to form a relationship with them. But because Nina spent the time and the energy in getting their trust, they really opened up to her, and that made our story really great.
Shooting photographs for Chase Garrett was one of my favorite stories I've done as a photojournalist at the Daily Iowan, just because of how driven and ambitious he was.
With the Chase Garrett piece, we really utilized our multimedia skills here. So you can go online and you can actually listen to Chase Garrett play the piano, and you can watch his fingers go across the keys, and you can see pictures of him playing for senior citizens or playing downtown on one of the pianos.
He's very young, and he would get on that piano and it was just like an extension of his hands.
But when our story came out, we pegged it to his first show at the Englert. And before our story ran, I think the Englert had sold roughly 20 tickets to his concert. And after our story ran, the Englert told us that the show sold out within a day.
We've done a lot of big stories this year. We've got a first, second, third in Hearst.
The thing I will miss the most about the DI is the people. We have a really fantastic staff here. They work really, really hard on top of all of their classes, do a phenomenal job, and just really show the world that the Daily Iowan is where the best journalists in the world are trained.